Today, we're digging into something maybe a little unexpected. Mushroom cultivation in India.
Yeah, it's surprisingly dynamic.
Right. Forget just, mushrooms on pizza. We've been looking at a stack of government policy documents, reports, and there's a real strategy here.
Absolutely. It's not just about food, is it? It touches on economics, nutrition, even environmental aspects.
Exactly. So our mission today is to sort of cut through the official language and figure out what's really going on. For anyone wanting to get up to speed quickly, have you ever thought about mushrooms? Like beyond the supermarket shelf, there's some genuinely interesting stuff, opportunities popping up.
Definitely.
We'll look at the main schemes, the kind of support that's available, and really why the government's putting such focus here.
It's quite ambitious, actually. This isn't some small pilot project.
No.
It feels like a determined push to build a proper industry. And when you look at the bigger picture, you can see how it fits with several national goals.
Okay, let's start there then, the big picture. Why mushrooms? What's the core thinking behind this push?
Well, the sources point to a few key things. First, nutrition, improving nutritional security. Mushrooms are pretty nutrient dense.
Right.
So boosting production helps there. Second, jobs. Simple as that. Farming, processing, logistics. It creates employment.
Okay.
Third, and this is quite clever using agro-waste, a lot of mushrooms grow on agricultural byproducts.
Turning waste into something valuable.
Exactly. And finally, it's about the economy. A bigger mushroom sector means, a boost to the national economy overall.
Makes a lot of sense when you lay it out like that. So where does India stand now? Globally, I mean.
Well, this really shows the potential. China is the giant here, something like 70% of the global market.
70%?
Yeah. India's share, it's around 1%.
1%, that's tiny in comparison.
It is, but you could also see it as a huge opportunity, right? That's clearly what the government sees.
A massive space to grow into.
Precisely. And it's not starting from zero. Current production is already around 2.5 million tons.
Yeah.
And it's growing quite fast, about 18% compound annual growth rate. So the base is there, and it's expanding.
Right, 18% is pretty healthy growth.
Yeah.
So what are the main tools, the main schemes the government is using to drive this?
The big one, the sort of central framework, is the Mission for Integrated Development of Horticulture.
Yeah.
MIDH.
MIDH, okay. Heard of that.
Think of it as the main umbrella program for the whole horticulture sector, and mushrooms are a key part of that.
So MIDH sets the strategy. How does the support actually, flow down?
It's mostly a central state partnership for funding. Usually it's 60% central money, 40% state money for the programs.
Okay.
Although for the northeastern states and the Himalayan states, the central share is higher, 90% in some cases, recognizing their specific needs.
Got it.
And MIDH provides the sort of guidelines and framework to the state horticulture missions. It covers the whole chain production, post-harvest stuff, marketing.
So it's a national plan, but states can adapt it. Do we have examples of how different states are doing it?
Yeah, definitely. Uttar Pradesh, for instance, they're quite direct with subsidies through their horticulture department.
How so?
They offer pretty significant help for private sector units. Like mushroom production units, you can get up to 40% of the cost, capped at Rs 8 lakhs for Rs 20 lakh project.
That's substantial.
Yeah, and similar deals for spawn-making units and compost-making units, too. About Rs 6 lakhs on a Rs 15 lakh unit for spawn, for instance.
Okay, so very focused infrastructure support in UP. What about other states?
Well, take Kerala. Their approach seems more integrated. Mushroom support is kind of woven into their broader state horticulture mission activities alongside other crops. More holistic, maybe.
Interesting. Kitted approaches under the same national umbrella. Now, beyond MIDH, are there other specific pots of money for mushrooms?
Oh, yes. The National Horticulture Board, the NHB, they have their own subsidy schemes aimed right at commercial mushroom farming.
Right.
It's a credit-linked, back-ended subsidy, meaning you usually get a loan, set up the project, meet the goals, and then the subsidy comes through.
Okay, back-ended. Got it. How much are we talking about?
Well, this scheme, last updated, I think, July 2011, offers help up to Rs 10 lakhs for setting up production plants.
And the breakdown, how does that subsidy work?
Generally, it's 40% of the total project cost. But there's a ceiling, Rs 30 lakh per project in most areas.
40%, up to 30 lakh.
Okay. But again, special consideration for tougher regions. For the Northeast, hilly states, scheduled areas, it's 50% of the costs, up to Rs 37.50 lakh.
Even better support there.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that NHB has been doing this kind of thing since it started. It shows a long-term view on mushrooms.
A consistent commitment then.
Yeah.
Is it easy to get this NHB funding? What's the process?
Well, Easy might be a strong word. There are definitely steps. You need what's called an in-principle approval, an IPA, before you can even properly apply.
Okay, pre-approval needed.
Yes, and the project itself has to meet certain technical standards. There's paperwork, verification after completion, following NHB rules on crops and how you run the project.
Right. Standard procedure for government funding, I suppose. So we have MIDH, we have NHB. Any states going even further with like dedicated mushroom programs?
Absolutely. Some states have launched specific mushroom missions. Odisha is a really good example here.
Odisha, what are they doing?
They've got a 5-year mission running from FY 2022-23 through to 2026-27. The Directorate of Horticulture is leading it.
And are they working alone?
No, they're collaborating widely with Mission Shakti, Ormas, Apokal, even universities and colleges are involved. It's quite joined up.
So what are the actual actions in Odisha's mission? What are they funding or promoting?
It's pretty broad. They're pushing to expand the actual area used for growing paddy straw, oyster, and button mushrooms. Big focus on training farmers, building capacity.
Training is key.
Definitely. And they're helping set up self-help group federations. There's also a specific target, quite interesting, training 10,000 women farmers and members of women SHGs.
Wow, 10,000. That's specific.
Yeah, with dedicated support, exposure visits to successful farms, really trying to empower women in this sector. Plus, they're setting up new button mushroom and spawn units in strategic spots.
That sounds very targeted. Any other states doing similar things?
Haryana is another one mentioned. They offer a straight 50% subsidy for growing mushrooms other than button mushrooms, and they actually have dedicated mushroom specialists in their agricultural department to give advice.
Experts on the ground. That's helpful. Okay, so support for cultivation is strong. What about, well, what happens after the harvest, the processing side? Especially for smaller businesses.
Good question. That's where another scheme fits in. The Prime Minister's formalization of micro-food processing enterprises, PMFME.
PMFME, right, for micro units.
Exactly. It supports setting up processing units. Like, we saw details for a standard canned mushroom unit. The total project cost estimated was around Rs 39.1 few lakh.
Okay, nearly 40 lakh. How does PMFME help with that cost?
In that example, the PMFME subsidy was Rs 10 lakh.
A decent chunk.
Yes. Then the entrepreneur, the promoter, needs to put in about Rs 4.3 lakh themselves. The rest comes from loans, a term loan around Rs 16.34 lakh and working capital about Rs 8.50 lakh.
So it helps bridge the funding gap.
Precisely. And PMFME doesn't just give money. They also run capacity building webinars specifically on mushroom processing, value addition techniques, sharing knowledge, too.
So support from farm through processing seems quite comprehensive. Now, wasn't there a big funding announcement recently in the budget?
Yeah, absolutely. Budget 2024, a very clear signal. They allocated 500 crore specifically for mushroom promotion.
500 crore, that's a lot.
It is, and it's coming via the Agricultural Infrastructure Fund, a serious injection of cash.
How's that 500 crore being divided up? Is it just for farms?
No, it's quite strategically allocated. The biggest chunk, 200 crore, is for a cold storage facility.
Ah, crucial for shelf life.
Very. Then 150 crore for setting up processing units, building on that PMFME support, perhaps.
Okay.
Then 100 crore is dedicated to training and capacity building. Skills are vital. And finally, 50 crore specifically for research and development, to keep improving techniques and finding new angles.
R&D is important for the long run. Okay, that budget allocation is significant.
Yeah.
What about the underlying science? The research supporting all this?
There's a solid foundation there, too. The main body is the ICAR Directorate of Mushroom Research, ICAR DMR.
Right, ICAR.
They do comprehensive research on all things mushroom. And critically, they provide training both for trainers, who then teach farmers, and directly for growers, too.
Train the trainer model.
Exactly. And they have a huge network, 23 coordinating centers, 9 cooperating centers spread across 27 states.
Wow, that's extensive coverage.
It is. They focus on regional surveys, finding new mushroom types suitable for local conditions, adapting technology. So expert advice and research findings are, meant to be accessible.
So a strong research backbone. I also remember hearing about the One District, One Product scheme. Does that play a role here?
Yes, it does intersect. Under ODOP, several states have actually identified mushrooms as a key product for specific districts.
Which states?
The sources mention Assam, Himachal Pradesh, Odisha again, and Jammu and Kashmir.
Okay.
So this scheme gives even more focused support resources, expertise channeled towards developing the mushroom sector in those particular districts with recognized potential.
It really feels like they're trying to cover all the bases,
Yeah.
from national strategy down to specific districts and individual entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But is it all working perfectly? Are there still gaps?
Well, like any big push, there are areas for improvement. The research suggests there's still a need to kind of consistently get the word out about these policies.
Make sure people actually know about the support available?
Exactly. Popularizing the schemes better among potential entrepreneurs, especially at the grassroots level, making sure the information reaches the people who could use it.
Right.
And the other point is regional variation. Some states seem to be implementing these policies more proactively or efficiently than others, so smoothing out those disparities could help accelerate growth nationally.
Okay. Makes sense. So we've really covered a lot of ground here on India's mushroom strategy, the schemes, the funding, the research. What's the main thing you think our listeners should take away from this?
I think the biggest takeaway is just how comprehensive and multi-layered this government approach is. It's not just one scheme. It's a whole ecosystem of support.
Right.
They're putting significant money and technical resources behind this, covering pretty much the entire value chain from farm to processing to market. It's a coordinated national effort.
And what's the potential payoff for people, for the country?
Potentially huge. For individuals, it opens up real entrepreneurial avenues, in farming, in food processing, with government support behind them for the country. Well, job creation, better nutrition, a smart way to handle agro-waste, and a boost to the overall economy.
And you mentioned the focus on women farmers earlier, too.
Yes, that's important too. The potential for greater gender equity in agricultural businesses is definitely part of the picture in initiatives like Odisha's.
This has been really illuminating. Honestly, there's way more to the mushroom story in India than I think most people realize.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, our listener, thinking about this scale of government support, the huge global market gap, what kind of surprising innovations or maybe completely new business ideas might spin out of India's mushroom sector soon? Think beyond just, growing and selling mushrooms. What else could this focus unlock? That's something to chew on as we wrap up this deep dive.